Hello, friends, and welcome back to the shop. Today is Sunday, March 9th, and boy, it's a beautiful day here in southeastern Pennsylvania. 54 degrees, I think, sunny, really quite nice. And it's quite late in the day. I normally do this video quite early in the morning. It is almost 1 o'clock. It's like 5 minutes to 1. It's been a it's been a day. It's all good stuff though. My wife is off to Pittsburgh to visit with her family for a week, and she said I'm going to be out of here by 8 o'clock. And I said, okay, well I'll wait and make sure you get out the door before I do anything. And of course, she wound up leaving around 12, and so I just waited for from 8 to 12. Anyway, I'm here now, so she's on the road, and hopefully she'll have a safe travels out to Pittsburgh and enjoy spending some time with her mom and her sisters. But I am enjoying. We're going to be talking about Zippo lighters today, but I'm enjoying some. I'm smoking some McBaren Navy Flake in a Stan Nowakowski pipe. This is a pipe that was actually given to me by my buddy Bona Piper, and what a great pipe! Nowakowski, he sells on eBay. He's Polish pipe maker, and his name is in the title card, so you can search him out, seek him out. Um, Kind of a Mr. Brogg type operation, but this is it's a briar pipe, and it's an enjoyable pipe to smoke, and I like it because it's kind of like a stacked egg. No, sorry, stacked devil ants. There we go. And it really does nicely with Virginias. So I am smoking the McBaren Navy Flake in this because it is the tobacco of the month chosen by you, the Friday Night live stream viewers. And I'm not liking it so far, so I'm trying it in a couple different things. I'm not going to be talking about tobacco today. We'll do that in one of the coming weeks during March, but I'm just trying it out in this pipe to see how it performs. So I wanted to talk about Zippos. And, I'm a Zippo guy. My oldest Zippo is that brass one that you see me very often using, the one that puts out the ridiculously high flame for reasons nobody can explain. That lighter has been with me for, I believe, over 30 years now. And yeah, I just always love Zippo lighters. It's what I consider to be a pipe lighter. And I've got some butane lighters. I've got some other brands. I keep these Medco. Uh, they're just much better than Bics. They're refillable. They last forever. I keep these around. I got one of these in my car. So it's not that I only use a Zippo, but my preference is to use a Zippo. And the two complaints that people have about Zippos are, one, they don't like the flavor, and two, they don't like having to refill it all the time. So the first one, I can't help you with that. I've never noticed a flavor. I've talked to a lot of people that agree with me on that. I've talked to a lot of people that disagree with me on that. Even if the flavor is there, it's there for a couple of seconds, if even that. And again, I've never noticed it. So if you notice a flavor, don't use a Zippo, or put up with it for a few seconds and move on. But that's not something we can fix, because if it's there, and I'm sure it's there for you, it's coming from the fuel, and you can't fix that. So if that's your problem, use something else. If the thing is you don't like refilling it, there's a lot of options. Uh, the question is, are any of them worthwhile? And if you don't want to watch this whole video, I'll tell you up front, the answer is no, sadly. Uh, I've been through all of these. I'm going to talk about, all, well, with one exception. But there is one thing that works, so I shouldn't say they're all no. So there'll be one thing at the end that at least theoretically works, and I have it on good. I have good authority saying that it works. So we'll get to that at the end here. So one of the first things that I started doing years and years ago was, well, first off, I remember to fill it every day. That's important. You got to fill it every day. If you don't, it's going to run out on you in the middle of the day. That's just the way these things are. You're holding a little canister of a highly volatile, evaporative liquid that's going to evaporate. There's nothing you can do about it. Uh, so fill it every day. Rule number one. And beyond that, once I got into that habit, I started thinking, well, what if I didn't have to fill it every day? Because I know I'm not burning all the fuel that I put in there. It's getting out somehow. So I read somewhere that people put Vaseline on the insert of the lighter around this part, and that helps seal the body, and then they can go days and weeks without refilling the lighter. Okay, I'll try that. It did make a bit of difference. It made it messy, I got Vaseline all over everything. Um, I then tried, because I'm a scientist and a geek and had access to it, I tried some high vacuum grease, which is like an industrial, really thick, much more viscous version of Vaseline, which is white petroleum. Anyway, uh, so I tried that, and again, made a mess, had zero effect on the length of time between fillings. Now, I say this in a very anecdotal way. I didn't measure the time, I just didn't notice a big difference. The next thing I tried, and this wasn't like I was trying them every week or something. A couple of years went by, and then people started talking about sandwich bag. You put this after you fill it into a sandwich bag, and then you cram it back in here. And a sandwich bag forms a seal, and then you just cut the bag away, and you're good. And my buddy Steve, Bear Wolf, Steve, he told me that he was using that and it worked great. And I thought, okay, well, if Steve says so, and I tried it, and as often happens, it seemed for a couple of fills to be better, but then it wasn't. It was just the same. That's interesting because the next thing I tried, and maybe I got the order reversed here, it doesn't matter, but one of the other things I tried was there was a big buzz about using Japanese cotton or bacon cotton. This is the very fine cotton that's used in vaping stuff. I have no idea why or how it works, but it's a very fine cotton. Replace the rayon ball that's inside your Zippo, the rayon cotton stuff that holds the fuel, with this Japanese cotton or bacon cotton. And so I got some of that. I swapped it out and tried. And sure enough, for the first couple of refills, I was so excited about it. I made a video about it saying this is amazing. It's like tripling the amount of time, and it didn't last. And I don't know why. I don't know if that was just sort of wishful thinking at the beginning, or if somehow the cotton changes as, absorbs more fuel or something, but it didn't last. So it was back to refilling every day. And that didn't work. So at the last Columbus pipe show, I was talking to uh, my friend Ethan, Parsimonious Piper, and he offered me a little gasket insert that you put in the bottom of the Zippo. And I said, "Oh, that's really kind of you. Are you sure?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm giving them to everybody." That's just the kind of guy Ethan is. If he's got something, he probably bought 100 of them so he can give them to everybody. Um, Something like that. I doubt he hands out cars or anything. Anyway, so he gave me one of these, and I was happy to give it a shot. And he said he thought it was making a difference, and I said, "Well, okay, let me give it a try." But I've been burned before, no pun intended. By the way, this is my Memento Mori, Tempus Fugit Memento Mori. I don't know if you can read that because of the lighting. There we go. This is my Lent lighter. It's a little silly, I suppose, but it is a remembrance, and I also take it out at Halloween because it's spooky. So it's got two purposes. So that's the lighter I'm using. But I've got this lighter here. You've seen this one before. And if you noticed back in the late fall, as I was using this, I had this piece of red tape on it. You can almost see, if I can actually focus on that for you. Somebody complained that I wasn't doing focusing right. It's a bit hieroglyphic now because it rubs off over time, but I actually kept a Sharpie with me and put a piece of tape on it so I could write down the date and time of each refill. And this has the gasket in the bottom. Let me see if I can. Yeah, so this is what you normally see in the bottom of a Zippo. Too many things in my hand. So this is what you normally see in the bottom of a Zippo lighter. It's a little felt pad. Just pull apart this one just to show you. Okay, so that's what you normally see. What Ethan gave me. Did I say Ian earlier? I hope I said Ethan. You have to take the flint screw out to remove this. So is that true? I think that's true. Yeah. So it's held in by the flint screw. But it's a really nice design. And honestly, whether or not this works, I think it's just such a nice design that you might want to buy these. They're not very expensive. You can get them on Amazon. Just search for Zippo gaskets. But they're this little sort of soft rubber piece, and the flint screw goes through that, and it's got a little fill flap that pops up. It's kind of cute. So when this is all in place, the nice thing about it is that kind of seals the bottom. So there's a little, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but there's a little lip on the edge, the top edge, so that when it goes on, it not only seals against the sides, but also sort of creates a little seal on the top once everything's squeezed together. Interesting design. Nicely made. Fits beautifully. I was worried it wasn't going to fit back into the case, but fits in just fine. Putting this back together. And yeah, so that's really sealing the bottom is about as good as you're ever going to seal the bottom. Okay, so forget about sandwich bags and vacuum grease and everything else. You're not going to get a better seal than that because it's actually compressing it between the bottom of the case and the bottom of the insert. So I did that, and I did a semi-scientific thing. So every time I filled it, I wrote down the date and the time. And I always fill, back then, I always filled the same way, which is a count of 7. So I open up the thing, or I lift up the felt pad, I tip the tin and I squeeze it and I count to 7, and then I take it off and put it back together. Now, this is not an exact volume measurement, it's going to vary from time to time. I would then write down the time that I refilled it, and I did this until I had 6 refills. I did this with the regular felt pad, then I swapped to the gasket, and I did the same thing with the gasket until I had 6 refills. So that gave me 6 numbers of how long I went between fills. Now, it's not perfect, other than the fact that I don't know the volume exactly. I also don't know the time exactly, because if I go to bed and that sits there overnight, and I wake up in the morning and I need to refill it, I don't know if I would have needed to refill it 10 minutes before I went to bed, or if 10 minutes before I woke up, it would have been fine. So there's this inability to truly know. You'd have to sit there and every 5 minutes try to light the lighter. It's the only way you could really know. And even that wouldn't work, because then you'd be constantly opening up. And anyway, this is the best I'm going to do. If you want to do better, you're welcome to give it a shot. So I did this, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you graphs and stuff. Yeah, it's really getting geeky. The first day, I believe it lasted for 60 hours. It was either 50 or 60 hours. I can't remember, but that was the first time I used the gasket, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." Well, you're going to see that the actual numbers weren't as amazing as I wish they were. So if you're not used to looking at graphs, the bottom line is there's no difference. But let me just kind of talk you through the numbers here. So on the upper left-hand side, you've just got a scatter plot of the number of hours. So the number of hours is shown going up and down, and then you can see there's gasket versus the standard felt. So each of those teal colored dots are times for standard felt. So you can see it ranges from, and there's some summary statistics there at the bottom. The minimum for the felt was 13.5 hours. The minimum for the gasket was 22 hours. And the maximum for the felt was 59 hours. The maximum for the gasket was 62 hours. But that 62 hours was the first time I filled it. So that was amazing. So what you can see is there's a big spread on the right if you like box plots, and who doesn't like box plots. You can see there's really not much going on here in terms of differences between the gasket and the standard felt gasket, or standard felt pad. The line in the middle of that box is the median value, and you can see they are almost identical. And then the box represents the spread around it. There's a little bit of skew in the gasket distribution towards higher values, but nothing that's going to be significantly different. You can see the mean and the medians in the bottom there. For those of you that are statistical geeks like me, there's practically zero difference in the median values. And the median is what's most resistant to outliers and very broad distributions of data, which we clearly have here. There is a bit of a difference in the mean of maybe like three point something hours. And I actually did that's none of this is statistically significant. I did the calculation to see how many times I would have to run it to find out if that 3 point something hours was a real difference. And I would have to basically do 50 some refills. And I'm sorry, guys, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to track the time of refill for 50 refills. So that's the most science you're going to get out of me on lighter refilling Zippos. The point is the gasket doesn't make any difference at all. Seemed like it did when I first put it in, but in the end it was a wash. But Ian, thank you, Ian. Why am I having so much trouble with Parsimonious Piper's name, Ethan? Thank you. I really enjoyed the opportunity to try it out, and more so, I like it. I mean, I think I might buy some just because I think they're nicer than trying to lift up that felt pad. You got that little flip top thing that really makes refilling a lot easier. So, yeah, I might invest in them just for that reason. And by invest, I mean they're very cheap. So go on Amazon, search for Zippo gasket, Zippo, yeah, Zippo gasket. You should find it. All right, so that didn't work. Why didn't any of these things work? Well, the reason is really simple. If you look at the lighter, see if this one will let me show you. I'm not going to be able to really show you this, but you know what these things look like. You got the wick going down the center there, and what's at the bottom of that is a hole. There's a little uh, brass ferrule, I believe it's brass, that the wick goes through. And the wick is, maybe, I don't know, eighth of an inch, 16th of an inch, somewhere, probably eighth of an inch, going through an eighth of an inch hole or 16th of an hole, whatever. It's a hole. Nothing's going to stop that fluid from evaporating through that hole. You can seal the bottom all you want. You still have that hole at the top. It's like you've got a jar of alcohol and you really made sure that you wrapped it really, really well, but you left the top off of it. It's going to evaporate. So is there anything you can do? Well, I was planning to make this video last week and I got too busy and didn't. And I'm glad I didn't because I mentioned it in passing during the live stream. And my buddy Tamper Jim sent me a note saying, the one thing that he found works is a piece of tire inner tube. He's not putting it inside or anything. He's actually wrapping it around this junction between the lid and the base. So a piece of bicycle tire inner tube, sort of like a thick, big rubber band that you can stretch and fit over that. It seals the lid to the body. And what that means is, yes, you're going to get some fluid evaporating, but it's going to be trapped up in this upper chamber. So that's going to probably eventually going to reach an equilibrium, and you're going to limit the evaporation because the vapor pressure of the fluid that has already evaporated is going to prevent more from evaporating. That's as much chemistry as you're going to get out of me today. So Jim swears that works. I haven't tried it, and I'm not going to try it because for me, I use the lighter so much during the day that I wouldn't be able to leave it on. I'd be constantly taking it on and off. So the only time it would be effective for me is overnight, and I'd probably forget to put it on. So, if you're somebody that doesn't use the lighter that much during the day, maybe, if you're one of these once or twice a day smokers, maybe that's exactly what you need, and it's worth a try. So thank you, Tamper Jim, for that suggestion. I appreciate it, and I hope some folks give it a try. So what I settled on, and this is not very satisfying, but it's the only way that I've been able to find to conserve the fluid. And so, three things. Number one, it ain't that expensive, so I'm not that worried about it. A can of Zippo fuel lasts me a really long time. But I was trying to decrease the number of times I have to refill it. Number two, I have just consigned myself to the fact that every morning I have to fill the lighter. That's just the fact of life. It has to happen. And if I want to use Zippos, that's what I do. Number three, you don't have to do this, but I tried it and it seems to work. I told you I count 7. Well, I decided to see how few counts can I get to before I lose the ability to light it during the day. Okay, so I get up in the morning, I count 7. When I go to bed at night, it's still working. I get up in the morning, I count 6, I count 5, I count 4. It turns out that the answer is somewhere between 4 and 5. If I do 4, it doesn't last me throughout the full day. If I do 5, it lasts throughout the full day and still lights the next morning. So it's somewhere between 4 and 5. I don't care to try to split the difference there. I just use 5. So what I believe is I'm using the minimal amount of fluid that will last me 24 hours within reason. And that's what I do every day. So as long as I do that, I never have a problem. I do forget sometimes. You've seen the issues with forgetting, but because sometimes I go to light this and it doesn't work. And I'm actually out of this Navy Flake. Thank you. So that's everything I wanted to say about Zippos. I know that was probably that felt like a long haul, but hopefully I got across the problem of that big hole in the center. And while it's fun to try to play with these things, unfortunately, the best thing we can do is just be consistent with the filling, and just fill it every day. That's probably the best way to conserve the fluid, because the one time I am absolutely certain it's not evaporating is when it's in that original container. As soon as I take it out, all bets are off. All right, so with that, I got half my day's gone. I got stuff I gotta get done. So probably not going to have very much fun today, but that's okay. We'll move on. This was fun. So I'm going to let you go and finish up your Sundays, and I hope you have a fantastic week ahead. Let me know in the comments if you've tried anything different, especially if you tried that inner tube trick. I really like that idea, so curious to know if that works out. Or if you have any thoughts on Zippos, don't tell me to use a Bic. And don't tell me don't use them because they don't taste good. I know folks don't like them for that reason, but can't do anything about it. But yeah, let me know about your own experiences. I'd love to hear it if you've got other tips or tricks, and maybe I'll do another science. With that, friends, take care. Have a fantastic week, and until we speak again, I will look forward to talking to you all again very soon. Bye now.